FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's January 19th, 2018. Well, I'm still here at the Miami Bitcoin Conference, chilly Miami. It's 50 degrees when we woke up this morning, but the blockchain is exploding. It's going exponential. I'm not just talking about the price of Bitcoin. I'm talking about the opportunity, the way the industry is growing by leaps and bounds. And if I had to sum it up for one reason, it's integrity. The blockchain equals integrity. Man has figured out how to corrupt everything else, from the pencil, the lead pencil, to the jet airplane and space travel. We've corrupted everything, but we haven't figured out yet how to corrupt the blockchain, which is why it is your savior. Hey, by the way, join the show, participate, email us, kl@kerrylutz.com. So I'm here, organization called T0. Find them at T0ZERO, T like Thomas, 0.com. Joe Cammerata, he is the CEO of the company, and what they're working on now, and they're affiliated with Overstock.com, and what they're working on, well, I'm going to let Joe talk about it. I could talk about it all day. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kerry.
So, blockchain, keeping track of stocks, all right? Seeing to it that every day there's several hundred million shares that supposedly trade, but nobody can figure out who they belong to. Not to mention shorting abuses, all of these things. You've got the cure.
Yes, Kerry. The breaks, trade breaks on Wall Street is one of the problems, in addition to, as you mentioned, naked short selling. And a large part of these breaks and not knowing who the shares belong to, as you had just indicated, is primarily because they're held in street name at DTCC. Your stocks are not held in your name in a ledger. In most cases, they're either on margin and held at a broker in a street name so that the shares can be lent out. And when there's a break, it creates complications and all kinds of inefficiencies that many of the large institutions enjoy the profits on those inefficiencies. T0 has set out to build an exchange to avoid all that. Overstock owns 81% of T0. They acquired us and have set out to have blockchain meet Wall Street. We did the first ever public issuance or an issuance of a public security that traded, cleared, and settled entirely on the blockchain away from DTCC, which put us in a perfect position to build out security tokens, which is where we are today.
Okay. So, when you talk about this game, DTCC was created by the big banks ostensibly to track all these certificates. We used to have physical certificates. Now, if you try to get a stock certificate from your stockbroker, they'll just tell you to close the account because it's much more trouble than it's worth. You can supposedly get the certificate issued not in street name so that they can't be shorted, but I think it's very, very difficult. So, and then when we talk about these broken trades, if you look at New York State's unclaimed funds database, you will find, and I've analyzed it extensively, that the majority of the money of the $14 or $15 billion held by New York State came from brokerage houses, and it's in, i.e. Merrill Lynch's name, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, and nobody knows who owns these shares, and effectively the brokerage houses are just required to turn it over to the state as unclaimed funds, and it's a ripoff of huge magnitude.
Well, and that's right, Kerry. For the most part, not only is retail and our pension plans being decimated by these inefficiencies and, quite frankly, being screwed by the institutions, more importantly, on the commission side, they're being hurt. On the inefficiencies, they're being hurt. And then even afterwards, they're being hurt when they're not given the proper shares because they're all held in street names.
I'll give you a perfect for instance. New York Life was a mutual life life insurance. They demutualized, and when they did that, all of the policyholders who prior to owned the company received shares, except they never bothered to explain very well to the policyholders that they now were shareholders in New York Life. Right now, there's hundreds of millions of dollars worth of New York Life shares, plus the dividends that get paid out on those shares, sitting in unclaimed property funds around the country. And it's just a massive ripoff that was easily avoided. But more importantly, so we've defined the problem. Inefficiencies in the settlement process, inefficiencies in the transfer process, all of these things. How does the blockchain solve it, Joe?
Great, Kerry. So one of the products we offer disrupts the securities lending side. It's called a DLR, Digital Locate Receipt. Whereas prime brokers on Wall Street traditionally lend out securities, and they call it naked short selling because they're lending out more shares than the beneficial owner has. So if a pension plan owns 10,000 shares, the prime broker may lend that out to 50 different people, those same 10,000 shares. There's no accrual. They don't decrement that at all. So at the end of the day, you might have a 10,000 share position that you got paid a couple of dollars, but the prime broker has gotten paid a lot more by 50 people, and now you have 500,000 shares of selling pressure on your 10,000 share position. So that's why the pension plans have been decimated, and it appears that it might be the first $1 trillion class action in the U.S. against the prime brokers from the pension plans.
Well, good luck when you go sue the powers that be. I'm not overly optimistic about the lawsuit. I don't care how good the lawyers are, because any judge looking at this is saying, well, are they going to remember me because I did the right thing and I made the pension plans whole? Or are they going to remember me because I broke Wall Street and bankrupted all of these banks?
Well, and quite frankly, the DLR product is just one. The highlight here of what we're doing is creating a whole new world on Wall Street. We're essentially quoting it Wall Street 2.0. We've created the first ever security token. So there was a craze of ICOs in 2017, raised a lot of money, but it was unregulated. A lot of money was raised, a lot of people put money in, and in about July of 2017, the SEC came out and finally provided guidance and said that these ICOs appear to be securities and should be treated as such. And if they're not registered or treated under an exemption, like we are as a Reg D offering, they're in violation of federal securities laws. So we've taken that position, and we at T0 have one of the only ATSs, alternative trading systems, which is a brokerage firm approved for digital securities. So when Overstock did the first ever public issuance of a digital security, we had to get this approval. It wound up being very convenient when the SEC gave this guidance, because right now we're the only ones that we know of that have this ATS approved for digital securities. It's helped the Overstock's price go up quite a bit, and now we're creating a whole new world of securities where it's a token. You may have seen that Kodak just announced they're launching a coin, and they're using T0 to do that, and we're building out a token exchange that at one day may compete with the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah, well, there's so many things, and the blockchain, like I said, is incorruptible. Now, you could argue there's definitely certain stocks that should not be shorted, i.e. ETFs. ETFs were not created as a means of the market makers to be able to manipulate all the underlying stocks in the indice, and yet that's what they've turned into, especially when you look at the precious metals ETFs. And it's like, how can you have more shares of GLD outstanding, which is supposed to be backed by gold, than have been issued? This is a big problem, and you don't want to cut off short sellers because they do provide liquidity to the market, but you don't want this hyper-hypothecation where the number of shares, the de facto number of shares, is way more than the actual number of issued shares.
And Kerry, that's exactly what we've created with the DLR platform. When we go out to the beneficial owner, we take their position, and when we're presenting that to potential borrowers, we have it in a public auction. So people are actually, for the first time, having transparency in securities lending. They're finding price discovery. So instead of getting the $2 they used used to get, people are actually bidding that stock up. So now other beneficial owners are realizing the value of their position, receiving that value. We're then putting that on the blockchain. We're decrementing those shares, so you can't have any more short selling than the shares exist, as you're talking about. It's all on the blockchain.
Yeah, and that's why short squeezes nowadays are so rare, because they can keep creating more and more shares, so they never have to pay the piper. And that's totally taken the honesty out of the market.
That's right, Karen, and that's what we're here to fix. I mean, slowly but surely, we're making great strides. If you'd like, check out tzero.com. We're still in the pre-sale phase, raising some capital to build out this new technology.
All right. Hey, Joe, thanks so much. Wish you the best of luck. We're going to put a link on the show notes of this interview. Take you right to tzero.com. Check it out. What I also like is the fact I tended to agree with the SEC, even though I don't like them particularly much, because they're a selective enforcer and they let the big guys go by. But let's face it, an ICO is a security by any, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, flies like a duck, floats like a duck. It's a duck. So, hey, Joe, wish you the best of luck. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Kerry. Good luck.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.